Please make your way out. So my name is Hafeeza Rashed. I am the Director of Programs and Partnerships at Moore Philanthropy. I'm here today to just give a little bit of background of why we were so excited to partner with Comic Relief to elevate and platform the great work that they've been doing and highlight the kind of transformational change they've done over the last 3 years, particularly in highlighting BIPOC-led organizations. Our work at Moore Philanthropy is to provide agile, thoughtful, and expansive support to individuals, families, and organizations like Comic Relief in order to help changemakers solve some of the world's greatest challenges. And our namesake, Yvonne Moore of Moore Philanthropy, is the managing director and founder, has been quite involved with Comic Relief US as the chair of its grant committee and as a board member. And so on behalf of Yvonne, I want to say welcome to you all. And with that, I'm excited to introduce to you our panelists, which is why we really are here today. First, I'm going to start with Gerard Allison, a youth advocate and renowned fashion designer, commercial fashion photographer, and filmmaker from Brooklyn. His work focuses on celebrating the beauty, desire, and fashion of Black and Latinx individuals while incorporating nostalgic elements from the past and envisioning moments of an imagined future. I'd also like to pass the baton to Zipporah Hawa Moriba, who is from Sierra Leone. Thank you for getting on that long flight to here. She is a passionate youth activist and founder of the Girl Aid movement and proud member of the She Leads Network. One of her most significant recent successes has been her working with Plan International to pass the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Act of 2022.
Thank you. Thank you.
And of course, I would like to introduce you to Olya Bushbaher. Excuse me, I should know that better because my name is Hafeeza Rashed, so people mess up my name too. A Youth Advisory Council alum who is pursuing a master's in social research methods at the London School of Economics with a focus on power sharing with youth in youth-focused international non-government organizations, or INGOs. Thank you so much for welcoming our panelists today.
Thank you.
So it's clear, based on all of your bios and the transformational shift that Comic Relief US has undertaken in the last 3 years, that youth activism and engaging youth to create social change is just the beginning of your work. To each of you, and we'll go down the line, starting with Gerard, can you share why you believe that youth empowerment is critical in providing solutions to social issues like intergenerational poverty?
Well, I believe youth are at the forefront for a lot of social issues that we face today. Speaking personally, when I arrived at the Youth Design Center, I took a film and photography course with them, and I really just wanted to learn how to use a camera to take better fashion pictures. But as the course went along, I started to learn different things about the community that I was born in, learning about different social issues and seeing that us youth in the community have an impact and have resources from organizations such as the Youth Design Center, other organizations in the neighborhood, Good Shepherd and after-school programs, and all of these other places that give us these tools and resources to change things that we see every day. And one thing that I realized growing up in my neighborhood, sometimes we don't really know that we're living inside of a social issue. Sometimes we may just walk outside the door or go to school and see how things are, and we just expect that that's how it is. But having resources, opportunity, I guess ways of getting an answer for your community has been great. I feel that youth also have the opportunity to say that we recognize a problem and this is how we should change it, knowing that it's gone from generation to generation and there has been some change made, and youth are the next generation that are able to make these changes and have them impact us in a greater way.
I really like the through line of you just going in like, oh, I just want to create better pictures and your entire world being opened up.
Yeah, so I feel like I learned one specific thing that I learned about my community was in 2019, we learned about the Bronzeville Plan, so better ways and different ways of improving our community. So one thing that I wasn't really that aware of how much of East Brooklyn is a food desert. So that was one thing that I was able to learn more about and getting involved in different community gardens. I also was able to start my fashion business, which is Lumiere. And I've been doing fashion since high school, think of it as a hobby. So now as I'm getting older, I realized just within my community in New York City alone, and just within Brooklyn, there are about 150 homeless shelters, and a lot of these people within these shelters don't have the resources to move from one shelter to the next. So one thing that I came up with was donating sneakers and clothing to these organizations. So that was one way that me, myself as a youth, tried to combat a social issue.
Thank you. Zipporah, can you share a little bit of your work on incorporating youth and intergenerational poverty abolition?
Okay, thank you so much for having me here. I grew up in a community where a lot of girls face violence, abuse, and, poor health quality. There are a lot of challenges in my community. But as a young person, I was passionate to see how I can work to bring change. So that's the reason that came about my organization, Girls Aid Movements. It's like aiding girls in a community to see how best we can, bring out those social dynamic issues that we have and offer solutions. Like for the violence that young people usually face in our communities, what we do is we engage stakeholders and see how best we can channel those things that they face that they even don't know and to offer solutions to it. So as young people, I believe we are drivers of change. We are innovative. We have the strength. We have the capability. I won't say we have all the resources that we need, but we have what it takes to bring the change that we want in our community. So as a young person, I was so passionate about these changes and I was so intentional. At community level, we believe that leaders are custodians of law, so we continuously engage them. Let them know that we are not the leaders of tomorrow. We are the leaders of today. And we have owned up our spaces. We are no more closing our mouths on issues that concerns us. We are moving forward to drive the change that we want to see. We want to compete with all the global nations. We want to be at the forefront. We want to be at the face of the world to know that we as young people, we are no more leaving behind. So some of these issues that we face at community level, we know that because we are drivers of change, because we are innovative leaders, we bring out, solutions. We bring out, the issues that are facing us, and we know that we can move forward to create the change and impact that we want.
Leaders of, not just the leaders of tomorrow, leaders of today. Oh yeah, can you share some of your work?
Yeah, so like you mentioned earlier, I just completed a master's and my thesis focus was on power sharing with youth and young adults within INGOs that serve young people. And that was really inspired by my time with Comic Relief, where I served as a youth advisor on their inaugural Youth Advisory Council that started in 2020. And before that, I was working as a grant officer with Malala Fund, which was working on solutions to girls' education and empowerment. And what really got me interested in that work is that my parents come from Bosnia and got married during the war, and I was born there during the war. And then we moved to the US as refugees when I was a young child. And they were really well educated in Bosnia. It has a really great education system, former Yugoslavia did. And when they came here, their degrees weren't recognized. And my dad was an engineer back at home, and my mom was working in like risk analysis for insurance, and here they couldn't work. And so they took any kind of odd job to really like sustain our family and take care of us. And they got a chance to go back to school. They worked on their English. And when they took new jobs from that, it drastically changed our livelihood and the way that we existed. And so they had always told me, education is the one thing no one can take away from you. So it's really important to me to work in the education space, and being in the youth space particularly, I've just seen so much good work happening from young people. And I don't even really want to, like, for the purposes of this conversation, call it youth empowerment, but rather youth engagement, because young people are really powerful. Yeah. You see it in Sierra Leone, you see it in Iran, you see it in my home country, in Bosnia, in the climate movement. Young people are already doing a lot of great work out here. They're holding their leaders accountable. They're teaching each other. They're mobilizing. And they just need partners and resources to do it. It's the responsibility of organizations like Comic Relief, like other INGOs, to find out ways to engage youth in true decision-making and true leadership. Because, these are our problems to inherit, and we have a lot of opinions about what should be done with it.
To build off Olga's comment around youth engagement, Zipporah, I had a question around the passing of the Women's Empowerment Act. Can you share a little bit about what that looked like, your advocacy to get that legislation passed, and where do you think you would be without young voices?
Because we knew that we are underrepresented, and we are the one that face our issues. We faced abuse, violence, and we deem it fit that policies has to be changed. If we want to move forward, there are policies that are hindering us. So if we have policies that can give us the opportunity to thrive, that will make a change. So we start off with awareness raising, engaging policymakers, engaging line ministries, engaging stakeholders that are concerned, that we know that can influence decision. So we use our voices, we create awareness, let them know that young people in different communities are facing violence. We need bylaws, we need policy that can tackle that. So we start off with awareness raising. So after that, our voices were heard, and the Ministry of Gender tried to sit with us as young people and other partners to draft the GEWE bill, which is called the Gender Empowerment Bill. So we were part of that, and our voices were part of this GEWE bill. We told them that we want young women, girls, to be represented in different strata. In parliament, in offices, we want women to lead positions. We just don't want women to be at the kitchen, to be cooking. We just don't want women, because this is what we are known for in Africa, everywhere the globe. This is what we're known for. Women should be behind. You should not come forward to lead. So we want to break that stereotype. So we add our voice to the drafting of this policy, but then again, it became stuck. So at some point, we were not hearing about the GEWE bill. We were not hearing about anything. We continued to push. It was not easy. Men were like, no, we cannot give you space. You have to be behind. We said, no, we need to walk side by side, because there are a lot of challenges that we are facing. We just believe if this GEWE bill is passed, we know we are breaking ground. So we engage stakeholders at parliament level, and then at some point it starts going to parliament and they were discussing it. So what we did was to engage the honorable members and tell them the need, the importance if this bill is passed. So for me, this stand out for me because I was one of the young women that championed this GEWE bill to be passed. And I asked a simple question: who are we to you people? Mm-hmm. They replied, you are our kids. If we are your children, you have to create a way for us to thrive. So this is one way you can create for us, by enact this policy. It wasn't easy, but we use our voices to create the change that we want. So at the end of the day, we succeeded and the GEWE bill was passed, and we have 30% representation of women at all different levels. So now we have 30% of women at parliament advocating for women, talking on issues that concern women. We know we have not yet arrived there, but at least we're breaking ground. So that stands out.
Olga, you were part of the first YAC cohort with Comic Relief in 2020. Can you share a bit about that experience and what came out of it?
Yeah, happily. In 2020, through an application process that I just saw on LinkedIn, got the opportunity to be part of Comic Relief's inaugural Youth Advisory Council. It was 8 of us in total, which Maya, who is one of our other members, is here today. To be honest, at the beginning, it was really daunting because we walked into a space of a lot of freedom. Comic Relief was really intentional about allowing us to create something, a vision that we all collectively held, which means we came into no direction other than take time to learn about each other and to learn about philanthropy and to get an idea of what you want. So we spent about 6 months at the beginning, really just like learning from each other, learning about our passions, learning about our own communities, learning things about philanthropy, both traditional philanthropy and maybe like more like community-based philanthropy. And then we spent 6 months building something together, which included, us thinking about what issues we wanted to focus on, us thinking about what types of groups we wanted to work with. We built the application process ourselves from scratch. We read through over 100 applications, and we didn't even post the application process publicly. I think we just circulated it through some trusted partners. So just to see that there's over 100 groups, youth-led individuals who are seeking funding and work, like, goes to show that there's a lot of good work happening around the world. And then we ended up funding 6 different groups, all youth-led, all BIPOC-led from across the world, doing incredible work around mental health, around transformative education, and around sustainable responses to hunger. And I think on top of kind of the great work that we got to build together, it was also just a really transformative experience. It taught me a lot about collaborative design, about consensus building. And I think for all of us, it kind of like reignited our commitments to our community, our commitments to the global community. And I like to think that it played a part in some of the big strategic shifts that you're seeing at Comic Relief US as a whole.
I think it's really notable to point out that you first heard of YAC cohort just off of LinkedIn, and like widening that pipeline of how you learn about these kind of opportunities allows a greater number of people, as well as a greater number of diverse people, to be able to interact with kind of institutional funders that otherwise in the past they might not have. Can you share how your experience with the cohort has shaped your research and study today?
Yeah, so I worked with young people who are also youth advisors to different INGOs, multilaterals, and I tried really intentionally to make the research co-owned, in that it wasn't just mine to put into a thesis and squirrel it away and never show anyone except my thesis advisor, but something I've just submitted last month, so it's still in the slow process, but something that we agreed upon as a group is that all of the transcripts would be anonymized and then shared with everyone in the group who had taken part in the research, and that information was collectively owned by us to produce advocacy pieces or written pieces that any of the youth advisors could use in their own advisory board or their advocacy generally. And that was something that I think I really learned through kind of the collective decision-making process, about how much we all are playing a role in this. And I think just the democratization of the research, which I think is key to any research really, but in this space especially, is something for all of us to use. And yeah, I'd love to talk more about my research and my findings, but I don't want to take up all this space. So if you want to find me after, I'm happy to share any of the findings.
Earlier, Allison mentioned the increase in grants that Comic Relief US is awarding to BIPOC-led organizations into the communities and spaces that is needed most. So I'm going to ask each of you this question. Why do you think investments in these types of organizations play such a crucial role in creating impact? You can volunteer. I don't want to put pressure on anyone. Okay, Zipporah.
So I believe investing in this type of organization is really crucial. Why? Because I believe they are in the community, they see it, they know it. There's a saying that goes, I don't know if you know, he who knows it feels it, right? So if they know it, they can feel it. So if they have that kind of empowerment or investment, they can utilize it wisely. Like me in my community, I interact with girls. I know their problems. I am a girl. I am one of them. I know the challenges that we face. I know what solutions that I can bring to the table to tackle those challenges, and it's make my work very easy. So for me, it's very crucial. Like I said, we are drivers of change. We have, what it takes to make that impact. So if Comic Relief is there to empower those organizations, it's very important.
Yeah. He who knows it feels it.
Yes.
Would anyone else like to share what these kind of investments and the impact it has made?
We are at the forefront of a lot of these issues, and we are going through it. We faced it. Some of them we've been able to get over, some of them we're still going through. And I feel like investments from these organizations into BIPOC-led organizations as well help kind of get the foot in the door of a lot of youth for the problems that they want to solve. Every day that we go through our lives, we're faced with different problems, and sometimes we know it's a problem, or sometimes we just need a little bit of help to get the ball rolling and solve that problem. So I feel like different things such as STEM programs, after-school programs, just to speak on me being an after-school teacher, I used to teach a lot of youth from like 5th grade to 8th grade. And they do know that there are a lot of issues in their neighborhood, that there are other ways of getting a better education. And I feel like being an organization or even a person to show them that this is one route you can take, but there are also these other 5 routes that you can take, whichever one feels the most comfortable to you should be the one you take, and try to make the change that you make. So I believe that youth do know what it is that they want to change, do know the impact that they can make, but sometimes they just need kind of the motivation or empowerment from bigger organizations to kind of give them the ropes and the guidelines to do what they need to do.
Yeah, I can close that one out. I think just putting on my like grants officer hat from my time at Malala Fund, which focuses on funding locally led solutions to barriers to girls' education, and is also a proud partner with Comic Relief US. There's just a lot of evidence that investing in the communities, investing in their own action and decision making leads to longer and lasting change. And I think speaking from like the feminist funding perspective, I read recently that it's like only 1.9% of all US funding ends up reaching women's rights organizations in the US, and only 0.5% reaches Black-led feminist movements and groups. And then globally, for like the billions and billions of dollars that are invested into development assistance, 1% reaches women's rights organizations on the global scale. And then on the flip side of that, I read some research by the Pacific Feminist Fund that in a study of over 70 countries over 3 decades, they found that women's social movements had way more impact on decreasing gender-based violence than any of the traditional top-down policies putting women in government. And you can see it from Zipporah's work, like when this law is there and that's great, but when it doesn't get enacted, who is going to hold the government responsible? It's going to be the feminist movement in Sierra Leone. There's a wealth of evidence to suggest that the people that you want to serve are the people you need to be investing in.
Oh yeah, I think it's really important that you provided kind of that bird's eye view of what the global landscape of funding looks like and how little of it actually gets down to the proximal communities. Gerard, can you talk a little bit about your experience working with YDC's creative agency with the fashion projects and how that has impacted your community and informed your social entrepreneurial path at like a little proximal viewpoint at your work?
Okay. Well, when I started with the Youth Design Center, like I said earlier, I kind of just wanted to take better fashion images. And throughout going through a different programming, I was exposed to different issues in the community. I feel like my most accomplished projects to this day is creating a fashion catalog with the Pickens Avenue Improvement District. So within Brownsville, along the avenue of Pickens, there are a bunch of small businesses and entrepreneurs that work within that section of Brownsville. So we were able to create a fashion magazine that displayed products and services that were made in the community and that come from people in the community. It also gave me, I guess, the glimpse of being a creative director for a magazine, which is something that I kind of never saw myself doing when I first got to the Youth Design Center. I was introduced to them. It's kind of a funny story. I was at a fashion show and I was networking with one of the photographers, and he told me about the different programmings that they did there. So graphic design, he designed a lot of different programs. So it's something that I did self-taught myself. So I decided to let me go to this organization that's within the community that I'm from. That was in 2020 that we created this catalog. And since then, I've been able to do a lot of other fashion projects. Recently, this past Fashion Week, along with 2 other fashion designers, we were able to teach the community how to operate and use a sewing machine. Also with the Youth Design Center, I find it very amazing that at one point I was a student in film and photography and animation as well. And as time passed, through all of my different efforts, I've been able to now become a mentor to one of the students in the Youth Design Center. So it's inspiring to me to know that being able to stick on the fashion path that I wanted to go on not only allowed me to do fashion work, but also allowed me to do work within my community and show the different parts of the community that a lot of community members really don't know is there. So when it comes to simple things such as community gardens and providing your own neighborhood with a way to have their own access to food without leaving the community was something that was very impactful for me. I've grown up in Brooklyn, been in Brooklyn most of my life, so every time I pass a community garden, when I was younger, it wouldn't really look like something inviting, something that people would want to go into. And now as more of us learn about it and get involved in the places that we live in, I see more and more of the community being impacted, and community is a good word to use. So they're all coming together and having something to use as a resource to make their neighborhood better. And one thing that I do like being from an underrepresented neighborhood is now we don't have to necessarily leave the neighborhood to get a better education, to get better resources, or even to see somebody who's doing the same thing that we would like to do. So that's one way that the Youth Design Center has impacted me.
So Gerard, when I said your bio earlier, I did not include after-school teacher, animator, like just dropping all these things.
Trying to stay busy.
So as we look forward and consider all of the challenges facing our world today, it can be difficult to remain hopeful. So I want to ask each of you, starting with Olia, what inspires each of you in the work that you do, and what advice would you like to share with everyone today as we push forward?
Yeah, maybe to respond to the first one, I want to read a quote from another youth activist. Her name is Zara Al-Halili, and I had the chance to work with her this summer with the Women Deliver conference, and she had posted something recently about her graduation, and I just thought her words were so beautiful and all-encompassing. And like me, her family moved to Australia because of conflict, and she wrote, "My ancestors have navigated unimaginable challenges, and yet here I am, a mere product of their resistance. Whilst my trajectory and growth was so contingent on their courage, the biggest lesson I've learned throughout is that one day we will be ancestors too." Yeah, and I think it's just like such a beautiful representation of everything that inspires me and keeps me going, both being my parents and the pattern of like love and resistance that they've set up in my life, and then also all of the other incredible young people that I've had a chance to work with, and the love and resistance that they show every day in terms of making better communities, making a better world, making a space that is interconnected and intersectional and just like a place where we all aspire to live. So that's what keeps me inspirational and hopeful.
I think what keeps me inspiration is the changes that we are experiencing at national level and community level. So in my community, like I said, we face a lot of challenges. I think that at some point there was one girl who was 5 years old, was molested, she died. And it's something that is ongoing, like a lot of people continue to face abuse, but now there are laws that are, breaking those boundaries, like those challenges that we're facing. So it keeps me inspired because I believe there is a better future. If we continue to raise our voices, we continue to see the changes and the impacts. I also said, like, for example, when I was growing up in my community, there are a lot of girls who don't have access to education. But I am serving as a motivation to them because I grew up in that community and I want to educate myself better, and I'll be representing the voice of young people at a global strata. So I myself am an inspiration to young people. So that gives me hope, because when they see me, they feel like, no, if Zipporah is pushing, if Zipporah is going, engaging stakeholders, I can do better than Zipporah. So like, I am a source of motivation to other young people. That gives me hope. That keeps inspiring me to push better, not to fail my community, not to fail my country, not to fail the world, not to fail the purpose that I'm here for, to create, a better opportunity for young people. So that gives me hope, and I know for sure the world will be a better place for all of us. Thank you.
I think to paraphrase Oya, you're a product of your community's resistance.
Sure.
Thank you to all of you for your work.
Knowing that change is here and change is coming, and it's always going to be a change, and more change is something that inspires me. And just knowing that if I'm able to succeed in everything that I'm succeeding now, and I have a mentee, I could imagine where he would be at in the next 5 to 6 years with all the changes that we are able to make. It also keeps me inspired knowing that, as the younger generation is getting older and everybody gets older, we are finding ways to stay connected. I know that these days there's so many different types of social medias and ways to stay connected, but I do like that, sometimes some people may just go on TikTok to find out their news and they're informed about everything that happened for the whole week, and then that could also lead to you finding out about a social issue within your community, and you lead to making a change, and also letting you have not only your community that can be involved in it, but let's say somebody from another state or even another country. So it does put us at more of like a global, impactful sense. And the generation before me also is going through changes, and they know that there's things that they want to fix, and they have the resources, and they also have the role models for it. It's something that keeps me hopeful.
Thank you so much to all three of you for joining us today and sharing so much of your work. I would like to also say that it's been a great discussion. Thank you again to Allison and Ayo for kicking us off. We look forward to more conversations. So if you guys are able to stick around, if you have questions, please find them. But first, if you are a grantee, please stand up. If you are an organization that has received a grant from Comic Relief US, please stand up. Okay, we are going to be meeting on that side of the room to take a group picture, and you all will be joining us as well. So first, let's clap and then make your way over.